Welcome to the Humble ISD Advanced Learning Podcast, where our goal is to talk about anything and everything related to advanced learning in less time than it takes for you to get from home to school or work. I'm Dr. Tong Utakrit, the Director of Advanced Learning for Humble ISD. We're continuing our college admissions series where we're talking to college admissions reps from all different colleges and universities that you're interested in here in Humble ISD. So today I'm joined by Scott McCurdy. He's the Associate Vice President for Enrollment and Administrative Affairs for East Texas Baptist University, or ETBU. Welcome on, Scott.
Tong, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Okay, so starting out, would love to hear a little bit more about ETBU. What would you say is like that secret sauce for ETBU? Like what makes ETBU special and attracts students?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When I think about ETBU, you know, Humble ISD is so blessed. I mean, y'all have got such strong students. Y'all are going to be thinking about universities all over the nation, and so when you think about what makes a small school in Marshall, you know, East Texas Baptist, what makes us special when you're considering all the different options that you have, what makes ETBU different is when we talk about becoming a part of the Tiger family, and we talk about having this great campus community. What that means is you can come on this campus and you can have any kind of background you have, you know, whether you're interested in the NCAA athletics or you're into theater, you want to be in the band, you can come from these very wide range of backgrounds and really immerse yourself on a campus where you get to be yourself and you get to thrive in a way that challenges you, of course, academically, but it also challenges you to think about, okay, what kind of leader are you going to be once you graduate? What are you going to do with the information that you get? And so I love the way you phrase it, the secret sauce. The secret sauce is this idea that we're going to take you and shape you based around the things that you love, the things that God has gifted you for, and really prepare you to make a mark, whether it be on the market or in ministry or wherever you choose to serve. We want to prepare you to have an impact right from day one.
Awesome. And so one of the things I would jump on is, so with it being ETBU, right, is a private institution, like how big, for those that don't know, how big of a school is ETBU?
Yeah, so we're about 2,000 students. The number bounces around a little bit, but we're about 90% on campus, which is very unique for most universities. A lot of times, especially now in 2025, you have a lot of remote learning, which is awesome. That's a great option to have, but we're very proud to have the vast majority of our students on campus. And so what that means is that you're always going to have people around. You're always going to be having the opportunity to make friends and to meet people that you're going to work with in your career, and you're going to have that close connection with your faculty members as well. And so the 2,000 number, of course, there are institutions much larger, there are institutions much smaller as well. But we're very happy with that great on-campus feel that we've developed.
Sure. And so would it be a stretch, say, so with an enrollment about 2,000, and that's undergrad only?
That's undergrad and graduate as well.
Okay, so about like an incoming freshman class, how big of a class is that normally?
Usually they're around 400. Yeah.
Okay, so 400 students, incoming freshman class. I mean, you're talking pretty small class sizes, yes, I'd assume.
Sir. Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, that's great. You know, you'll have the opportunity to be in classes that are, you know, especially your freshman classes, you're going to be around that 15 to 20 student range. But once you get into your discipline-specific classes, you're looking at class sizes of 8 to 10, maybe 12. And so that's a great opportunity where your professors really know, you know, who you are, what your strengths are, maybe where you need a little bit of extra help. You're not going to get lost in the shuffle. And that's really important for us because you're not just going to be a number. And you know, there's nothing wrong. I did my undergraduate at a large university. I'm very proud of that. But when you get into these settings, having the opportunity to have your education personalized to the largest extent. So if you're absolutely just flying through assignments, this is not a challenge for me. Your professors are going to know that, and they're going to be able to, you know, they're not going to hammer you and make it harder just for the sake of it, but they're going to be able to challenge you in that individualistic type way and make sure that you're learning, that you're developing, not just that they're providing a lecture for a large auditorium.
Yeah, and one of the things about Humble ISD, just for your knowledge, right? So we're a district of 48,000 students. Yeah. And so when you think about our comprehensive high schools, I mean, we're talking significant 3,000 plus sort of enrollments. And yet we also have smaller high schools, whether it's our early college or Kingwood Park, which is a smaller. And so we do have a range of students. Some are fine in a large school setting, but some really do like that smaller scale where, like you said, I want to be known by my teachers. I want to be known by my instructors. And so I think ETBU could really appeal to those sorts of students.
Yeah, for sure. And the one little anecdote that I like to give that gives a good picture of it is, I had a young lady that worked for me in my office a few years ago, and she was working as a student worker, so she was in her undergraduate. And she went to class, and just life happens, and you have these different experiences, whether it's 4 years in your undergrad or you stay for your master's, a lot can happen in those times. And she was just having a tough day. A lot of life was happening, and but she was very studious, went to class, and actually had a professor kind of stop her afterwards and say, "Hey, I just want to check on you. You don't seem quite like yourself today. Is everything okay?" And she needed that extra hand and that extra level of care. And that's really, again, that's just one story. But that's the type of investment that our faculty members are able to make into students. And so, of course, we have students that come from large high schools like Humble and all over the nation. But we love being able to take a student that's maybe used to being just a number, and maybe used to that large setting, but really bring them in and show them how impactful a very intimate, close-knit campus community can be.
Awesome. And I do want to ask another question that I think is very specific to like ETBU or similar, right? It's East Texas Baptist University. So yes, private, but also faith-based. Right. Do you have to be a certain belief system in order to enroll at ETBU?
No, not at all. We are obviously very proud of being a Baptist institution. That's not going to change. But from our perspective, we want to offer the best education possible, and we offer it from that faith-based perspective. So there's no faith requirement for our students. We can have any faith, all faith, no faith is welcome there. Our faculty and our staff, those are the ones that we want those to be, Christian believers and be very dedicated to their faith. And so there's no point at which we're going to pull you aside and be like, hey, you're not enough of a Christian to enroll here. But it's our conviction that an education that's based around Scripture and is taught from that Christian worldview is the most sound education that will prepare you for a life of impact. And so, no, there's no faith requirement, but it's certainly nothing that we're shying away from.
Awesome. And so when you think about the campus and some of the academic programs or traditions that make you stand out, how would you describe that? Like, what does campus life look like for students?
So campus life is vibrant, and I love being on campus because it reminds me of how old I've gotten, because I see how active they are, and there's always something going on, and I'm like, man, I'm tired just watching you home. But no, it's one of those things when you have that smaller campus and you have the majority of your student body on campus, there's always activities going. And so we've got 18 NCAA D3 athletic programs, and so you got your headliners like football and basketball and softball and baseball, all those different things. So they've got games going, but then even like volleyball and beach volleyball and tennis. And so you've got these matches and these events going on, and people are bouncing around and catching all the different things going on. And so it's a great environment for that, but also within the classroom, we've got different programs. So we've got an honors program where if a student wants to really take that next step with their education, they can work directly with their faculty member, essentially have like a chair that will work you through an honors project, and which also comes with additional financial aid. I'll just slip that in real quick. But the idea is that we're all in this together, and we're all pulling in the same direction. And you have that community that's gonna grab hold of you and say, like, let's be the best version of you that you can be, and really grab this thing and get after it. And so you mentioned the traditions. I do want to say one thing. Our kind of campus motto is "May the light on the hill never die." So if you look at pictures of the campus, in front of our main administrative building, which is called Marshall Hall, there's a light pole there, and it's got a light on it. And that light has been lit since the campus was inaugurated. And so we date back to 1912. And I'm not saying there hadn't been like a power outage or something like that. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But it's a symbolic light that's lit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's the idea that we're a city on a hill. We're going to step forward and be that light in the world. And so our students really grab that. And so when our students graduate, they get a class ring that's got that light on the hill, and it's that daily, minute by minute reminder of you came to a special place and you've taken something very special from it, and you're challenged and really called to carry that light wherever you go. Whether it's like we mentioned, whether you go into the market or into nursing or ministry, anything like that. That's our kind of core tradition that we're gonna lay hold of this. We're gonna be that light.
Awesome. Well, Scott, I'd love to transition the conversation a little bit more towards admissions, right? Because I know our community, I know when students and parents start navigating that admissions process, there's a lot of questions, sometimes some anxieties. So when you think about admissions into ETBU, how does ETBU review transcript? Like some of the things that we always get asked, like weighted and unweighted GPAs or recalculation of GPAs on a high school transcript. Or even, let's start there. Let's start there with GPAs and transcript evaluation.
Let me, if you don't hear anything else that I'm about to say, let me say one thing. Let's diffuse the anxiety in the admissions process, because we hear from parents and students and high school counselors all the time on the same questions you said. What are we supposed to do? How is this supposed to work? Listen, there's a lot of unnecessary anxiety around that. So at ETBU, we have a dedicated records department that will work with you on your transcript and go through all of those different peculiarities that are required. And so whatever you send us, we will be able to take it and look at it and get you into the academic scholarships that you're qualified for. So we go off of a 4.0 scale. I know schools, some do 5 and 6. And, even as I'm saying that, there's probably somebody out there that does something different. There's 1,000 different ways to do it. But our view of this is you're going to demonstrate yourself in the classroom. And so we're going to look at the full view of who you are as a student, who you are as a member of your school, and work with you to determine, okay, this is, with our scale, this is how this works. And so it's a very, very personalized process that we go through. And so, again, it's one of those things, as I say it, I'm never going to get a parent to not be anxious about the process, and that's totally fine. But I do want everybody to understand, we've got people that are going to work with you and make sure that it's a smooth process.
And so I guess, do you recalculate? You said using your scale. So you would take the transcript and then recalculate based off. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I guess I could have probably said that a little bit clearer, but.
And so is it different? Like if I take an advanced placement course or dual credit course or a typical academic on level course, like how does that play in to the transcript evaluation process?
I don't want to speak too broadly because, again, there's 1,000 different exit ramps that you can take on that route. But it is going to, like if you take an AP course, it's going to weight differently. And if you do dual credit, it's going to play within that differently. But that's why I stress the personalized nature of it, because if you're looking for kind of a one size fits all, if I just do this, then everything will be smooth. I don't want students and parents to be worried about that. If you're performing well in your class and you're doing the APs and you're doing the dual credits, that weighted, unweighted, different things is not gonna harm you. And so, again, that's why I go back to we're concerned about the way the students perform and the way that they show their prowess in these different subjects. And so, our records department is gonna work closely with everybody. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, like with having an incoming class of 400, we can work with you individually. We're not trying to sort through 50,000 transcripts. And so we do it all the time. We have families on campus, or we, have a call with them and say, hey, look, this is how this credit is weighted. And this is how it's applying to this, recalculated GPA. And people have questions all the time, and we walk them through it and make sure that everybody understands and everybody is on the same page.
Okay. So one of the things, especially in Texas public schools, is the idea of high school endorsements.
Yeah.
Right? Does that play a part at all as far as admissions decisions go?
So those are obviously very popular right now, and picking that pathway and getting those classes set is very important. But again, it goes back to the admissions conversation. We want to see students and parents that are serious about their academics and that are performing well. We're much less concerned with the endorsement or the pathway that you chose at one time. We're a liberal arts university, and we offer that broad range of education that's going to prepare you for what your career is going to ask. And so if you end up as a senior saying, man, I wish I would have chose a different endorsement or gone a different path. Don't fret. Because we're going to work with the demonstrated excellence that you've had in the classroom. And at no point are you going to be sitting with your admissions counselor and they're going to say, like, well, why did you take these classes? What were you thinking here? You did it. You performed well at it. You're considering a higher education. That's all great. If you're performing well and you're doing your assignments and you're getting after it, that's a positive, regardless of what the endorsement that you chose was.
Awesome. And so what about things outside of the academics or transcript evaluation, right? When we think about extracurriculars or other activities, leadership experience, like what are some of those other things for ETBU that your admissions team looks at?
Yeah. So one of the things that ETBU does, we talk about, we want to train and equip future Christian servant leaders. And so the idea of servant leadership is very important for us. And that's what we try and instill in our students. And so it's the idea of, simply putting others first with your leadership. And it also comes with the idea of it doesn't matter if it's you and I sitting here or if it's your students that are listening, everyone is a leader in some capacity. And so it's just how you use that leadership. And so when you think about how that plays into an admissions process, what we want to see is, are you engaged with those around you? Are you volunteering at the church, or are you staying late to help tutor your fellow students? Are you using the influence that you've been able to garner in a way that elevates those around you? And so it's the same, we don't want to get caught up in I need to be a part of this club, or I need to do all these, X, Y, and Z to mark off. No, it's what are you doing where you are, and how is it impacting those people around you? And so again, I mentioned, our honors program has a additional scholarship. We actually have additional scholarship support that's available when you do demonstrate that servant leadership within your current context. And so it's something that wherever you happen to be, whether it's in, we have students that serve in 4-H, and we have students that are, maybe they're the manager for the basketball team, or they're working for the school library when they have time. Those are all leadership opportunities, and it's opportunities that you have the chance to really impact those around you in small ways. But if you'll take advantage of those little small interactions can really add up. And I'll say, just as a pointer, keep track of those things. Something that you think might be minor that you or your student is involved in. Keep just a running tally of okay, hey, we stayed late and we did this, or we are involved in these activities. So that way, when you're going through the application process, you don't have to sit back and think okay, what did we do in the fall of 2023 when we were running around? Just keep that running track of it.
Awesome. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question here. When we think about someone starting that process in high school, right? And they're starting to think about, okay, when I'm done in high school, I want to look at post-secondary education. I want to look at college. I want to look at universities. So when you're thinking about starting on that process, tracking the activities, but what about admissions essays, recommendations, even the idea of demonstrated interest in your school?
Yeah, it's certainly a process. And now, we're on the Common App, and so we see a lot of people coming through Common App and doing these different things. And so the application process has changed a lot over the last few years. But the same thing on the other side of things, just try to reduce the anxiety, because if you're applying to a school, they're excited that you're applying to that school. And Humble ISD students, y'all are a commodity to these institutions. You're a commodity to ETBU. We want to be able to educate you and equip you. And so a lot of the admissions processes, if you just kind of read through them, you're like, man, they even want me to come here. There's so much stuff I got to do. Yes, we do want you. These schools want you. Y'all are performing very well. And so when you're thinking about how am I going to do these different things, how am I going to set myself apart, just be honest. Just talk about the education that you've had, the experiences that you've had. Tell us about who you are. Tell us about who you want to be upon graduation and what you want to learn and do. And as you just speak honestly and you let that internal passion really come through, that's what we're looking for. But we want students that are engaged with their education, that don't want to just sit on autopilot, but want to say no, I want to learn what I can in these few years, and I want to take it and I want to apply it in these ways. And so don't feel like you have to meet some arbitrary standard for, oh, am I interested enough, or are my interests aligned with the institution? Just tell us, like, if you want to go in and be a nurse, we've got a great nursing program. Why do you want to be a nurse? What is it about it that has drawn you to that? And then just speak from the heart on those subjects. And again, it just the anxiety can get turned up to 11. But just speak about what your experience has been and what you want to become.
Awesome. I appreciate the Spinal Tap reference there. Students, you may not get it. You can ask your parents. Right. Great Spinal Tap reference there. Okay, so let's say that we've talked about transcript evaluation, activities, talking about interests. Can we talk about one of the things I do know that comes up, especially for private institutions, is affording an ETBU education, being a private institution, not a public one. Mm-hmm. I know you've referenced financial aid and scholarship packets already. Can you kind of talk about that process for how to afford an ETBU education?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say, one of the things that we're very proud of at ETBU is we are not priced in line with other private institutions. And that's not to denigrate anything about any other institution in Texas or abroad. But a lot of times people hear private undergraduate program and, start hiding debit cards and running for the hills. But there's certainly places you can go and you can spend a mountain of money. But we work tremendously diligently at ETBU to make sure that it remains affordable, because the students that we want, we're not trying to withhold education from students. We want good, strong students that are seeking to get the type of education that we offer. And so it doesn't make sense for us to, some kind of gatekeep on those things just because we're trying to keep pace with what the tuition needs to be. Now, that being said, there is, public, private, it doesn't matter. There is a cost associated, and we're very mindful of that as well. And that's why, we have, I mentioned already, the honors program scholarship. We've got the servant leadership scholarships. But then if you want to go into band, we've got scholarships for band players, a lot of different program-dependent scholarships that will help you. And the other thing is that, our main primary scholarship system is based off of your test scores and your GPA. And we super score those things. So if you're like, hey, I've taken the ACT a handful of times and I keep struggling with this section, well, we're going to look at those different section scores and make sure that you get the highest possible reward for the work that you've put in. And so it's not a process where we look at it and we say, okay, how many quarters and nickels can we squeeze out of these students? We're looking at it and we're saying, hey, let's work through this process. Tell us about what you're doing. Tell us about, what programs you're going to be in. Let's make sure that you get the biggest financial aid package that we can present.
That's good to know, because I know sometimes, again, in talking with families and students, is seeing that initial sticker price.
Sure.
It's like, wow, like how could I ever be able to? But hearing that there's some support systems there, I think is really beneficial.
Well, I've been at ETBU for 4 years now. I have never met one single student, not a solitary soul, that has paid sticker price at ETBU. That does not happen. And so if you're Googling around and you're looking at these different things, just understand you are not going to pay that price that you find. We're going to supplement and we're going to assist you in that process to the absolute extent of the fullest extent of our capacity.
Awesome. Now, I want to transition again. So we've talked about getting in. We've talked about being able to afford it. Now, once I'm there, right? I'm a student at ETBU. What support systems are in place to make sure that I'm successful there?
Well, that's the name of the game. All of the extracurriculars are great. It's great to have a close-knit campus and a beautiful campus. But if you're not thriving in the classroom, then something has gone awry. And so we're very, very intentional. We want to see students come through and actually get that degree. We want to see them walk the stage. And so the way that we do that is we've got a dedicated academic support department, and that is what they do. We've got full-time staff members that their job is to make sure that you are thriving in the classroom. And so that may be through dedicated one-on-one tutoring. It may be through accommodations. If you've got test anxiety or something that's preventing you from really doing your best on an assignment, go back and talk to that professor and say, hey, man, I really freak out when I sit down and I'm looking. I almost said Scantron. I almost gave my age away. But when I'm sitting down on test day and I'm looking through these things, I'm freaking out. Well, okay, your professor's going to know you, going to understand, and we can give you those accommodations that you need. And if you're falling behind, or if you're finding, man, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or whatever, you've got people that are ready and willing to step in and say, okay, what do you need? How can we make sure not just that you pass the class? Because if you pass your classes and you don't learn anything, that's a problem. But it's about more than passing it. So they're there to make sure that you learn it, that you really gather that information, and that you can apply it.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about once we start ending the college journey, right? What about like post-graduation job opportunities? Like, is there a placement or some sort of group that helps with job opportunities after you graduate?
For sure. So I do want to tell you about two different things. One thing is that we do have the traditional career center where, same thing, dedicated staff. Their job is to help you find a job. And they work closely with our alumni department, and the ETBU family, the community that we've built, very much sticks together, and so they know, like, hey, we've got a graduate from a few years ago. It's got a startup, or it's got a business somewhere. Let's get you connected to them. See if we can't find an opportunity for you there. And so same thing where they're going to help you with a resume and help you with interview skills and walk with you through that job hunt process. And that goes even, let's say you graduate in the spring of 26 and now all of a sudden it's fall of 26. You're saying, hey, I got into this job, but maybe I want to do something different. Our graduates can always come back and say, hey, can I get a hand on finding something different? So we do that as well. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is ETBU has got a really unique setup in Marshall where we've got an extension site of our campus in downtown Marshall. It's called Synergy Park. And, your listeners can check it out. Our website, synergyparkmarshall.com. And the reason I want to bring that up is it's a different feature than most liberal arts universities have. So what Synergy Park is it was a former bank building in downtown Marshall. The building's about 48,000 square feet. So that was a large bank at one time. It's originally built in 1973. And we were able to acquire it a few years ago. And it's one of those things that we looked at and said, okay, how do we serve the community? How do we serve our students with a facility like this? And how do we, really uplift our downtown city? And what we determined the best use of that was let's give good, high quality, affordable office space for local corporations. So ETBU as an institution owns the building, but we lease it to, right now we're at about, I think, 15 or 16 different corporations that lease space within the building. So they actually have their headquarters technically on ETBU-owned property. So what that allows us to do is we have a direct line with those corporations and those organizations where we can plug our students in right away. So we work closely with our School of Business, and we say, okay, we've got a student that's, man, they're an absolute whiz at marketing. They're knocking it out. Well, let's get them a real, all the internships are great, but let's get them an internship that's very intensive, not just with a corporation, but with a local, a locally owned organization that's operating within our city, where they can see, okay, I'm talking to the CEO, or I'm talking to the founder, I'm talking to directly with their leadership, learning this is what it's going to take from me if I want to go start my own business, if I want to be a part of an expansion team. You're getting that real world experience that is absolutely worth its weight in gold. And so we're super proud of that. That's been operating for a couple of years now, and we've seen some great success of students that are able to come in and say, I'm going to try this out for 6 or 8 or 12 weeks. And then they find, like, oh my goodness, I love this. I didn't even know that this was available here. But now all of a sudden they've got this great network of professionals that are eager for them to graduate so they can hire them full time. And so just on your question about like post grad, we start thinking about post grad the day that you come on campus, because an undergraduate degree is great, and we're all for education, and we want to see education attainment rates grow. But we also know that, like, you're coming here because you're going to want a job at some point. And if it's not leading you to a fruitful career, then something's wrong, in the math. And so we start thinking about that, preparing you for that career right from day one.
Awesome. Okay, so as we kind of close out our time, I want to get a few more final thoughts from you. if you could give one piece of advice to a student that's considering ETBU, what would it be?
Come to campus. Make the drive. I made the drive this morning, and it took me about 3 hours from my front door to your front door. It's a beautiful drive, but come to campus and see what this campus is about. You can look at pictures, and we were commenting before we started. The pictures are beautiful. It's a striking campus, but if you're considering ETBU, take that time. Even if it's on a Saturday, just come up to campus and see for yourself what it's about, and see the way that the campus is. And one of the things I do want to make a mention of is, we talked about the intentionality in the classroom and with the support systems, but I do also want to say we're very considerate of the students, even in the design and the layout of campus. And so we understand, you're not going to spend all your time in the classroom. I don't want to break it to anybody, but classes do end at some point, and you've got some hours to fill. And so we take that into consideration. We want to give you very high quality spaces where you're going to study or spend your time or hang out with friends or play a pickup basketball game or go swimming or whatever. Your wants and your needs are considered even when we laid out our campus. And so not a lot of universities can say that they're investing heavily in their freshman dorms. Poor freshmen, y'all don't normally get the short end of the stick, but we invest very, very heavily in our freshman dorms, because we know, okay, you're leaving home. You're going to a new place. This is a new experience for you. Let's take every little pocket of anxiety that we can, and let's minimize it as much as possible. So our freshman dorms are absolutely stellar.
Yeah, and I love, in our entire conversation so far, I feel like I keep hearing this theme for ETBU of personalization, really getting to know students. And I love that, especially when you talk about, again, a student body of about, 3,000, 4,000, just to be known, right? And not just be a number. It seems like that's a huge draw for ETBU. Yeah. So what about for parents, right? Because there's the student side of looking into schools, and then there's the parents and guardians that are supporting students as they go on this journey. So what advice would you give to parents or guardians that are supporting their student as they navigate life after high school?
Yeah. One, congratulations. You made it. you got your kid into college. And listen, I say that half jokingly, but parents should be proud of the investment that they've made in their students, starting from, daycare, pre-K, all the way through 12th grade, and all of the sports and the Saturdays and all those different things. Don't think that, this is just another hurdle we have to cover. Take some time. You've invested in someone that is doing great things. You should be very proud of that. And that's what we try to do, is we try and carry that investment and know that, okay, this student's been cared for tremendously. We take that responsibility very seriously. And as you're going through that, my encouragement to the parents is, talk to us. Reach out to the institution. Reach out to the admissions counselor. Send us the email. Ask the hard questions, or ask the advice on these things. And it goes back to what we talked about on the financial aid. A lot of times people will read the material online and assume that's the end of the story. And the way that we encourage people is hey, this is a broad overview of things, so you have a good idea, just kind of what we're doing. But if there's a specific issue that you're having, then by all means, we want to have that conversation with you. And if that's financial aid support, if it's related to affordability, certainly we want to have those conversations. Or if it's just hey, what are we? What's the topic of study in the marketing department, or what is it like to actually be within, get a biology degree, or what's it like to be have those conversations, because ultimately, this is a decision that you and your student are going to need to make together, and more information is always better. And so just reach out, have those conversations, and ask the questions, and we're more than happy to have, any and all conversations that a parent wants to have.
Awesome. So obviously we're running out of time here. So how can students and families find out more about ETBU?
So two ways. One, obviously etbu.edu, go to the admissions hub, and you can find all the different things laid out there, and it'll walk you through everything from, scholarship requirements and dollar amounts on those things. It'll walk you through what our different housing options are and different events on campus. That's the main structure there. But then I also do want to mention, I mentioned it earlier, that we're on Common App. And so if you just want a quick hit on what is ETBU, you can go to our Common App page and find it there. And it's a very, very simple application that you can submit. Social medias are all over the place. And so, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, just search East Texas Baptist University. You can find it there. But again, it goes back. Reach out, do the digging on the social media, see the students and the activities, and really use this time as you're preparing for college. Get as much information as you possibly can.
Awesome. Scott, we really appreciate you coming on today. We're excited about the opportunities that are available at ETBU for our Humble ISD students.
All right, Tong, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Look, that's all the time we have today for the Advanced Learning Podcast. You can follow us on social media on X at humbleisd_ADV. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be notified anytime we drop a new episode talking about anything and everything related to advanced learning. This is Dr. Tong Utakrit, and this has been the Advanced Learning Podcast, keeping you ahead of the learning curve in Humble ISD.